Now, we're going to have someone from the media right here. We already have him in studio. That is not a bad guy, but a good guy. And it's Sam Alipour with ESPN. Now, why are we doing this in the second hour rather than the third hour? Because this has an interesting social aspect to this story as well. First, Sam, welcome to the Young Turks.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Now, tell me who Eric Frimpong is and what he's going through.
Eric Frimpong left Ghana in 2005 to play soccer for UC Santa Barbara. And he was discovered by accident by an assistant coach out there who was there to scout a player, the son of a Ghana pro, a legend actually in Ghana. He ended up offering a scholarship to Eric instead. He got here in the summer of 2005, and by 2 years later, he'd done well in class, made a lot of friends, adults, male, female, and students, and helped lead the Gauchos to the national championship in soccer. 2 weeks later, he was accused of raping a fellow student on the beach. And today he sits in jail where he's serving 6 years in state prison.
Now, the girl he was accused of raping, she had some issues with what she remembered from that night, didn't she?
Yeah. What struck me about the story is a lot of people feel he shouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm.
A community, a large portion of the community, feels he's innocent. And one of the many reasons that they feel that he's innocent is the prosecution based their case mostly on her memory. There was very little physical evidence to suggest that he was the culprit. They based it mostly on her memory, and she had a near toxic blood alcohol level, and her testimony seemed to carry weight. I think what's important to mention here is that the jury was an all-white jury,
mm-hmm.
and this is a black man and an immigrant. A lot of people have drawn the parallel to the Duke lacrosse case. Those were white men from affluent families, and that seems to be the difference here. That many people feel that's why he's in prison.
Now, and she's a white girl who got attacked, right?
My understanding is that she's of Asian descent. There's a mix.
Oh, okay. And so the reason I brought up her memory is at one point, well, this is one of the things that struck me in your article, and the article's fantastic. It's called The Story of Prisoner F95488, and we have a link up to it at theyoungturks.com. Of course, you can find it on ESPN.com as well. Is that she says that she got bit in the face during the attack, but she doesn't remember who bit her in the face. Well, that's the most strangest thing I've ever heard in my life. Wouldn't it be the guy who was attacking you? So how could you not remember that? And then she says she doesn't remember whole blocks of the attack. And she's not even entirely sure who did it, it seemed to me. Did I read that wrong, or is that right?
No, what I think happened there is she met Eric Frimpong, and her name, in the story and in the media reports is Jane Doe. Jane met Eric Frimpong at a party in Isla Vista. I went to UC Santa Barbara. It's a overindulgence sort of carries the day there, mm-hmm. and it's a big party scene. Now, Eric was known to be a very studious fellow, didn't party, but they were the national champions, and he was a big hit. Flags for Ghana were hanging over bedposts, is how it was explained to me. And he met her at a party. Apparently she knew who he was. And they went to his house. He invited her to his house. And sometime later, they played beer pong for a few minutes. The drinking. I mean,
I'm familiar with beer
You
pong.
played. I know. I can tell.
Wow. I should have played a hell of a lot more. Let's put it that way. But anyway, yes.
Anyway, after a few minutes of beer pong, she stated she wanted to smoke, and this is according to Eric. They went to a park next door where she smoked, and he told her he wasn't interested. He says that she stuck his hand down his pants and squeezed his genitals, and he got frightened and he scrammed. He took off. She says that at some point, she doesn't remember how or when really, they went down to the beach, which is where he raped her. Now, let's be very clear, because this is a very delicate topic. I mean, it's a serious issue. Both sides, both the prosecution and the defense, agree that a rape took place. So in no way was this story to suggest that we wanted to stay away from re-victimizing the victim.
Mm-hmm.
But what has become clear to his supporters is that once at the beach, either she doesn't know who raped her and she's fingering Eric Frimpong, who was the last person she remembers hanging out with, or she does know who raped her and she's protecting that person. And as you know, reading the story, there's another character in the story, her white boyfriend, whose semen was found on her panties.
All right, so let's get this part of the story straight, because this is absolutely critical. There is no DNA evidence that Eric Frimpong was with her, okay, sexually speaking.
Let me clarify that. There is none of his DNA on her. There was 2 cells of hers found on his scrotum and on his penis.
And that's what he says she reached into his
Correct.
genes, right? Now, look, that's an interesting thing, and you're right. That's an important clarification, so you don't know for a fact. But the ex-boyfriend, who she had also run into that night, his DNA is all over her underwear. Now, if I'm on the jury, I say, look, I'm not exactly sure what happened here. What I know is I'm giving a non-guilty verdict. Like, maybe Eric did it, right? You know, there's some DNA, he was with her that night, etc. But you tell me you know beyond a shadow of a doubt, beyond any reasonable doubt, that it was not the ex-boyfriend, even though the woman doesn't remember most of it. She doesn't know who bit her in the face. His teeth don't match the teeth marks. Did the boyfriend's teeth match the teeth marks?
One dental expert said that he could not rule out Frimpong as making the bite. That was the prosecution's dentist. Frimpong's dentist said that it was not Frimpong, but it could have been the white boyfriend.
All right, so that's Frimpong's attorney, so you can interpret it any way you like. But you don't have enough here. So, you know, in the time that we have left here, Sam, tell me what happened here. Because on the one hand, you have an all-white jury and they convict him on evidence that does not seem enough for a conviction. On the other hand, the community loved him. I mean, you're talking about flying Ghana flags over, you know, obviously not just black, but black, white, Asian, you know, dorm rooms. So how do you explain that?
You know, it's sad to say, because I'm a Californian. I spent a lot of time in Santa Barbara. And I don't want to paint everyone with the same brush. But in the minds of Frimpong's supporters, there is no doubt that race is the reason for his conviction. You have an all-white jury, and, you know, say what you want about the evidence, but there had to have been a reasonable doubt. And now that's just strictly my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a legal expert. I was not there that night, and I feel in my heart, you know, only God knows what happened, and these 2 people. But
and one of them might not even know.
She might not even remember. You know, she admitted to having huge chunks of memory missing from that night. So it seems to me that this story is about the sleeping demons of racial prejudice. Even here in liberal California, where we feel that, you know, we're ahead of the curve and we're progressive people.
So, you know, people might think, oh yeah, I like him and I'm not prejudiced or anything like that, but in the middle of a trial, their old prejudices that they might not even realize are there come out when they see a black defendant and they think, well, if they're accusing him, he must have done it.
Part of the problem also is that the defense, there's a lot of criticism for the attorney for Eric Frimpong, Robert Sanger. Many feel he just didn't put up a defense. And while I'm not a legal expert, I can tell you what the score was. And I'm going to quote or paraphrase Eric Frimpong's head coach, Tim Von Steeg, who said the final score was 32-1. The prosecution called 32 witnesses, and the defense called 1. And that was a blood alcohol expert who testified that based on the time that the sample was taken and calculating the period of time between the sample and the time that the authorities feel the rape took place, her alcohol level could have been as high as 0.34, which is near toxic. Now, compelling evidence, but one witness to 31 witnesses,
Let me ask you a little bit more about that. We're talking to Sam Alipour from ESPN and ESPN.com, and you can find the story on ESPN.com. We also have a link up to it at theyoungturks.com. So who hired the attorney? And I know a lot of times, it's not necessarily that people are racist, because that's too broad a stroke sometimes. Mm-hmm. It's just that people can't afford proper representation, And sometimes it's not even within race. Kobe gets great lawyers, Mike Tyson gets crap lawyers, and you get two different results. So who hired the lawyers here, and how did that work?
That's a good question. Eric has no money. He had no money. He came from a village in Ghana. So what he ended up doing is he I've interviewed over 100 people for this story, and his supporters, his friends, countless friends and classmates and teammates, and they all speak extremely highly of his character. Does that mean he didn't do it? No. A lot of times crimes take place, and you see the fellow churchgoers who say, "I would have never suspected him." Well, he could have. The character does not hold all the weight here, but he won a lot of friends and supporters, and when this crime was reported in the press, his American family, a middle-class family in San Diego, the parents of one of his teammates, they stepped forward and they helped fund the defense together with a booster, two boosters actually. And so, the defense that he was able to afford came through donations. Now, Robert Sanger is an attorney of some renown there, and he came through a recommendation. Apparently, he participated in Michael Jackson's legal defense. But the thinking among his supporters is he just he didn't believe in his heart maybe that that Eric was innocent. He didn't. Bottom line is they feel that he didn't put in the time, and I think that's reflected in the score of, again, 31 witnesses to 1.
Yeah, I just, when the defense says, oh, no, I don't have to present a case, technically they have to prove the case. That's not the point. You have to convince the jury anyway. That drives me crazy. But anyway, any way you slice it is an absolutely fascinating story. It's the story of prisoner F95488, written by Sam Alipour. You can read it on ESPN.com. Sam, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, Young Turks.